I've been hunting my whole life. I've been studying animals' behavior and communication for over 30 years. And about 2 decades ago, I founded a company, Illusion, to create game call systems so you could talk to animals. And now it's time to share that information. Welcome to Deer Society's Calling Tips. Today's calling tip is about technique. When it comes to technique on how to actually get the sounds, the precision sounds that you're looking for out of your extinguisher deer call, it takes practice. It just takes practice. But let's go over a couple of the techniques that I use to get the best sounds that I can. Now, I'm going to start out with a fawn sound. Now remember, and this is so important, a deer's volume in the timber, or their natural voice volume, it's really quite light. It's not that loud. So what you want to do, especially in the case of a fawn, is you want to keep the lowest volume that you can possibly get and yet project the sound out. So it's a natural volume, but yet you have that natural tone and that natural sound as well. So let's go over that. From a fawn perspective, all I want to do with this call is I dial it all the way up to the fawn, all the way up to the top of the call, and I start to put a very small bit of air through the call. And it really starts out not making any noise because I'm trying the lightest air pressure I can to get that reed to start to vibrate. And as soon as I detect that that reed is vibrating, that's when I start to do the actual note. And let me give you an example of that. I mean, I'm barely putting any air into this. As soon as I feel that reed start to vibrate, then I do the inflection, but I keep that natural volume that we're looking for. So it's real simple. You start out with the note sound without any inflection. It sounds like this. You see it's a monotone note, and if I want to add inflection to that, which can be emotion or just a natural sound of the deer, the way they do it, it sounds like this. I use my hand to cut the note down, and it gets a little bit deeper. Remember, a natural volume, a natural tone, use the inflection, and make sure you practice. So that's your fawn bleat, and that's a natural sounding fawn bleat, and that's the technique you want to use to get that natural sound to create the illusion of an actual real deer. Now we'll get into the technique of the doe, or the bleating calls of the doe. And it's really the same similar thing as I just showed you with a fawn. The doe call, you just slide it down into the doe range, and the doe, the range that you go, the deeper the sound is typically the older of the doe. And so just keep that in mind. And if you're going to do a doe grunt or something like that, you definitely want to be down to the lower portion of the doe. That'll give you that more of that rawr, rawr kind of a sound. So once again, put it in the doe area. You start out with as least air pressure as you can to get the reed starting to work, and then you inflect it and control it from there. Now you hear that little bit of vibration, and I'm putting air through the call before it starts to make a sound, and then all of a sudden it'll start and it'll pick up, and that's when I can start to control the sound of the bleat and control how I want to inflect that to actually create a specific word, if you will. So once again, we'll do it again. I'm going to slide it up a little bit more now, so it should start a little earlier. That's a higher pitch doe bleat. Slide it down a little bit. Okay, so that's your doe range. Now with the inflection, same thing, you use your hand. Now did you notice that I made a different tone? It's the same exact setting, it's the same call, I'm putting the same amount of air, the same amount of volume, but I changed it to an actual vocabulary. And I started out with my hand closed, which is the lower pitch, and I just kind of opened that up, kind of gave it some emotion. And actually I come down at the end, so it's wah, wah. Instead of the monotone. Okay? You can add a little bit of pressure. It's going to change the tone slightly, but it really stays monotone unless you use the hand for inflection. And you need to practice this. That's the key. If you want to sound exactly like a deer, you have to practice, and you have to make sure that you're mimicking what you're seeing, what you're hearing out in the field. Here's a little doe grunt. Just different sounds, different pitches, different inflections. Learn that language and you're going to be a lot more effective when you use the right techniques.
With the extinguisher game call, we changed the way that the industry looks at grunt calls. I don't think there's anything else anywhere near the performance level that this call can produce.
When you can full a mature whitetail like that, your possibilities are really endless when you head to the woods.
I use the extinguisher and the black racks. They're fantastic, and I would not go in the woods without them in my arsenal.
The extinguisher deer call and black rack rattling system are the highest rated deer communication systems of all time. Get yours today at illusionsystems.com. Order now.